Well, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Jane, and if you watch me regularly, you might notice that we are quite a bit sunnier today than normal. And that is because for the next 4 weeks, instead of coming from Scotland, I am going to be here in Naples in Italy. And this is something that I do every year. I just come here for a bit of sunshine, a bit of time on my own to plan things. And it is wonderful. Today I want to talk about something that happened the last time I was here. So 2025, March 2025. When I visit here, it's kind of in the build up to Easter. And part of that is a big procession called the Madonna del Arco. And there are lots and lots of marching bands that process with big religious banners and statues of Madonna and so on. The street, which is underneath my balcony, is one of the places that they gather to practice their music. And they sound a bit like this. So I go out with a drink and I listen to them. And last year, before they started their marching pom-pom-pom songs, they were playing something that I thought I recognised. And you know how it is when you're out of context. And I listened, and then suddenly I got it. It was Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, Enola Gay from 1980. This is an anti-war song from 1980. I thought, well, that's a bit random. And surely before the time of most of the people in the band. So I messaged you. I played it sort of via WhatsApp audio. And he said, go and look at the news. So turned on the news, and there it was, that President Trump, as part of his attempts to quash diversity, equity, had ruled that all mentions of the word gay should be removed from records. And one of the things that was flagged were photographs of the Enola Gay, the plane that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. So here I was sitting in Italy with listening to a community religious band play an anti-war song from 45 years before as a protest at repression of equality. So I was thinking about that as I knit my way through lots and lots of the Melt the Ice hat. I've given 2 away now. This one is for Viv, and this one I'm casting on is for myself. And this is a knitting pattern. It's really interesting. Europe has had a tradition of red hats as really resistance to state oppression for hundreds and hundreds of years. But they were worn with great effect in Norway as an opposition to Nazi occupation. Eventually the red hats were made illegal there, which sort of shows that it was working a bit. But this idea has been picked up by a yarn shop in Minneapolis. They produced a pattern based on the Norwegian hat, this kind of triangular hat on a big ribbing. And it has to have a tassel on the top. So, and all of the money then went to Minneapolis, charities working with immigrants. Now, if you want the background of this, if you want to know why it's such a great fundraising project, then Christina, who is one of the studio members, made a YouTube all about that, which I'm going to link here. What interested me is that this is, yes, it is a fundraiser, obviously, and that money is tangible and vitally important, but it is also a way of being physically seen within the things that you believe in. So standing up as a physical body with a odd-looking red hat is really important. It is a performance of your views. And I also think that it's really important because it creates space for conversation. You know, I like your hat. Did you knit your own hat? That's an unusual hat. And that gives you space to explain why you knitted the hat, why you're wearing the hat, why the hat is important, where the money is going, what has been happening in Minneapolis, and it gives space for a conversation. And it reminded me very much of the first thing that I ever bought as an item of clothing, which is an Edwardian silk walking dress. It's probably from about 1912, and there was a number of reasons I bought it. Primarily, I must confess, it was because I felt it was something that Lucy Honeychurch would wear in a room with a view, and at the time I was fairly obsessed with Helena Bonham Carter's wardrobe in the film. Secondly, it was in such a bad state. The whole of the lining is completely shot. It's a silk that has just broken up. So I could afford it. But thirdly, it had embroidery on it. Now the dress, well, the suit is impeccably made. It really is just tailored so beautifully. There are like curtain weights in the peplum to keep it down. The skirt with its 22-inch waist is just, it's just beautifully tailored. And it was made in Fraser's in Glasgow, which I don't think is a department store. I think it must have been somebody a company that just made these clothes, because it is very much a bespoke item of clothing. And then it is embroidered. Now, when you look at the embroideries today, they look as though they might be grey and purple, maybe. But that is because they have faded. And when you look at it inside, you can see that they are actually purple and green. They are the suffragette colours. And this walking outfit, this incredibly well used because the underarms are in quite a state, this outfit was a way of somebody showing that they were a suffragette, that was their beliefs. And this was very common at the time. You know, at top end, people bought jewellery with green and purple stones, sometimes mixed with diamonds or pearls. Coming, you know, there was lots of bags, there was lots of outfits like this, and then right the way down to ribbons and hat bands and buttons that you could put onto your own clothes to show that you were a suffragette. Now this was actually a relatively risky thing to do. Not everybody agreed with the suffragettes, as we know, and the people in power specifically didn't agree with it. And lots of women didn't agree with it. So nailing your colours, your red, your purple and green, to the mast, saying these are my beliefs, performing your beliefs, was really important, because when you can see how many people there are that agree with you, that gives a cause so much power. And that is why I feel the hats and the suffragette colours are so important. And one of the things that Christina is responding to in her YouTube, link here, is the attacking of the hat pattern for Minneapolis as being performative. These are attacks that were on Threads and I think also on X. I've not seen them. I came off Twitter long ago when it was still Twitter, and I never joined Threads, which I'm very grateful for. And I think that probably lots of the comments that come about these things are bots, because they seem to be designed just to make people wary, to destroy confidence, to make them think that they're not doing anything. Whereas actually the performing of your beliefs, the going out in public with your beliefs on show, the having conversations about things are vitally important. So performative is one of those words that really became part of cancel culture only in 2020. You know, before that it had a very different meaning. And, you know, those people in the marching band, they were performing their beliefs in a very obvious way. Wearers of red hats, wearers of suffragette clothes are giving a performance of their beliefs. It comes from inside. It is brave. It is joyful resistance through performance. And it contrasted very much with an amazing book that I read at the end of last year. And this is a book called The Crooked Cross by Sally Carson, which many of you may have heard of. It was written in 1933 and published in 1934, and has been reprinted by Procession Press maybe about 18 months ago, and it's also available as an audiobook, and I believe that Radio 4 broadcast an abridged version. The book is about the rise of the Nazi Party in Bavaria in 1933. And it was written by an English woman who was staying there on holiday, as many British writers spent a lot of time in the early 1930s in Germany. And she tells a family story. She tells the story of Lexa and Moritz, who are an engaged couple. The book opens on Christmas Eve. It's a big family dinner. They are discussing their wedding plans. By New Year's Eve, Moritz has lost his job. By the end of January, he's lost his apartment. And so on and so on and so on. We know the story. And the book takes you to Midsummer Eve and their attempt to escape into Austria. And it's an incredibly powerful book. But the thing that struck me so forcibly is that everybody keeps quiet about their own views. There is this feeling that it is safe if nobody says anything, that Moritz should just keep really quiet, out the way, stay in his flat, never venture out, and he would then be safe. Lexa's family are pleased that her brothers now have jobs. They have misgivings, but they never ever voice them. And the power of this book, I mean, it is brilliantly written. And I do recommend that everybody reads it. I actually think that it should be required reading. But the power of the book is that it was written at the time when the full horrors had not yet been rolled out. But there were horrors enough, and it was written at the time, in real time, by a powerful writer. Go and read it. And remember that really the power of protest, it isn't just going to rallies and donating and writing to your representatives. All of those are important. But it is also showing your views, talking about your views, having visible examples of your views that are important too, that show how many of us there are, that encourage, that spark conversation. And never ever worry about somebody saying that you are not doing enough, that whatever it is that you are doing is performative, because they're likely to actually be a bot. I don't think real people are that self-righteous. And I do also wonder whether the hat, like the suffragettes' clothes, which were described as vanity and trivial, I wonder whether the hats get criticism because they are based on traditionally female crafts. Because realistically, there can be nothing less performative than something you have to put effort into, that you have to put skills into. Like knitting a hat for all your friends. I would love to know your views about this, because I think it is really one of the most important things that we face at the moment. Having the courage and the backup to speak out our views about the terrible things that are happening in the world. Because when we speak about them, we get more agency, we feel more intentional. It is a positive cycle. And there is nothing worse than invisibility and silence of the people who can make a difference. So, until next Friday, bye-bye.